Welcome back. The holidays are drawing to a close for children in coastal provinces. But how many still haven't been placed in schools? Well, let's speak to the spokesperson of the Eastern Cape Education Department, Vuyiseka Mboxela. Vuyiseka, thank you very much for your time and thank you for joining us at eNCA. I remember the MEC of Education in the province did mention that they are ready as a department for the opening on schools on Wednesday. But there is that contentious issue, of course. We heard that Santako, for example, says that it will be a total shutdown. No scholar transport will operate in the province because of the ongoing issues around payment from the Department of Transport for those scholar transport. How are you going to navigate around that? How will the schools open then with that?
Thank you very much, Aviwe. I think also greetings to the viewers of eNCA. I can confirm that at 6 o'clock today, a meeting that was called by the Premier, Mr. Oscar Mabuyane, was in session, and it's still in session. It's a meeting with the Department of Transport, Department of Treasury, Office of the Premier, and the MEC of Education, and of course, including the taxi operators. The essence of that meeting is to look at the issues that transport operators have been raising since last year, which relates to payment and also which relates to a bit of a disjuncture on the routes that Department of Transport is submitting. And from where we sit at, we don't think that there can be a meeting that is called by the Premier that doesn't come up with a solution. So we believe that by the day we are expected to have learners back in our schools. Those that are supposed to be transported, they would be transported because there would have been a solution which would have been as a result of a meeting of today, which has been called by the Premier with all the other stakeholders that I've mentioned.
Make us maybe understand, Vuyiseka, how then is there an issue around payment when there was 650 million rand set aside for scholar transport? Where's that money?
The issue that transport operators are raising is around routes and around the individual payment of a learner. And you would remember that each year we deal with a different cohort of learners. For an example, those that were doing grade 12 last year, many of them, they are not going to go back to school because they would have passed. They are going to tertiary. Now, it therefore means that each year you must make a different submission, especially on the exit grades. That is, in a simplest English, grade 12 and also standard 7. So every now and then you are guaranteed that there's going to be a change in terms of learners that must be transported and also in terms of numbers. But what we are reading as a trend is that instead of the number going down, it's going up. And what has been a disjuncture between the two departments is that Department of Transport will present a number and the Department of Education will be presenting a number of learners based on the registration of them in their respective high schools. So those are some of the issues that have been identified as a gap, and also there's an issue of routes. For an example, you'll find that there are farm areas in the Eastern Cape, especially in the Sarabatman, in Jokabi, and also there are far-flung places, especially on the side of our Tambo, which then, in terms of categorization of transport, which must be used to transport learners, taxi industry would be having a lot of issues to raise, which relates to the type of road, which relates to then the car that Department of Transport expect taxi operators to to use to fare learners. So those are some of the details and the nitty-gritties that the meeting of today is busy with. And we are of a view that at least some of the issues that they are raising, especially those that relate to how many learners can the two departments, Department of Transport and Education, just have a quick agreement that this is the number? And two, in terms of routes to be taken, can that be quickly resolved? Because if Department of Education says we've got a school in Willowmore, there can be no argument that comes from any other person to say you don't have a school, because it's the custodian of the Department of Education that knows where the schools are. Because you've got EMIS, which is an internal system of education that is able to identify schools through interactions with them, principals, the learners, and we are only able to track learners using their own identities, identity numbers. So there are those most immediate and simple challenges that the meeting of today is expected to resolve. And of course, on the issue of roads, their quality and all others, it may just depend on what is agreed today.
And in Gauteng, we know we're going in the second week of schools reopening now, and there are at least hundreds of learners that are yet to be placed. What's it looking like in the Eastern Cape? Come Wednesday, will each and every learner be at school?
In terms of what has been admitted last year, because in the Eastern Cape, starting from April, we open up our applications to parents. But I can tell you that there are 3 districts that are always a bit of a concentration. It's BCM, Nelson Mandela Metro, and the Sarah Baartman. And of course, if you look at the character of the Eastern Cape as a province, you'd understand that those are the 2 metros which then present a bit of a different economic opportunities as against a person that would have been staying in Ortambo. So when learners are to migrate from one district to the other, it's always allowed to be between the period of April and September. In terms of application and inquiries in different schools. Then from September up until the end of January, it's always that process of placement, because there are still parents that are still making an application. But I can tell you, as of the data that was available in the department, on the day the MEC was making a briefing in East London last week, it was indicated that it's only Nelson Mandela Metro, BCM, and Sarah Baartman that has got issues with the placement of learners. And even the number was at 590. I think it was 598, if I'm not mistaken. But it was a very handful a number, which is manageable. And also, there's an issue of parents whom, when they want a particular school, they become very rigid when they are being told that no, eNCA school is full, but we can accommodate you at eNCA one school. They would want a particular school and be rigid at that, which then sometimes make it very difficult for the department to then quickly place them and say on the first day there would not be even one learner that would be out. But if we were to just go according to what the placement of department is, I can tell you that we're not going to have any learner that does not have a school.
And maybe some of those concerns from the parents are valid.
Because it was very
Given
small,
that
510.
we do know in the Eastern Cape there's still the issue of mud schools and toilet pits in these schools. When will that be adequately addressed? Because I know the President did speak about this issue. And vandalism, of course, has also crept in. Won't that impact the opening of schools again? Hello, Vuyiseka, are you still there? All right.
Yes, I am. In terms of infrastructure, Yes, in terms of infrastructure, Aviwe, I can tell you that it's a thorn in the hip in terms of the department. But since 2019, the arrival of the MSc, we've been pushing very hard that those schools that have been finished, they must be given to communities. And I can tell you, there are schools that are 16 that are in different stages of them being built. And on top of that, there's that program that is led by the national department called SAFE, that also has a huge target in 3 provinces, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, and KZN. And in this financial year of 2023-2024, there's a huge number of toilets that is going to be given to schools, because some of them, they've been completed. We see them around as people that crisscross the province. They're going to be given, and we do believe that the amount of them would be a great deal to the province. And on the issue of vandalism, you know, it's a bit of a pain, because I would make an example. You've got a school called Mgomanzi Senior Secondary School in Bartworth. That school keeps getting banned. It has been banned for 3 times. And each and every time that school is being built, the community of that area comes to the public and cry and say, can the department build the school for us? But the fundamental question, why would a community allow an infrastructure given to them by government to be vandalized? Because there is a reality that we must all accept, is that the economy of the country is growing, and the budget that is available must be used in a manner that which will be able to say we are registering a progress. If last year alone we were able to hand over more than 22 schools across the province, if any of those schools by now could be registered to have been banned, it therefore means that we are a department that takes 5 steps forward and take 7 steps back because of things that are outside the control of the department.
And I just want to interject, apologies for this. I'm being told that we're running out of time, but I quickly want to ask on the group copying allegations. We know matric results are coming out. What's going to happen to those learners that are involved in those allegations of group copying? We know in the Alfred Nzo municipality, in Tabankulu to be more specific, given that the results are coming out now.
In actual fact, Aviwe, I can tell you, it is not that which was mostly flighted in different platforms. It is not actually that which was being flighted in many media platforms. What happened is that there are just a small number of learners that in one particular question, they seem to be sharing same content, same method of answering. It's not even a number that is above 6. It's not a group copying, but it's just that how it has been analyzed without even facts from the Department of Basic Education as the responsible custodian of examination writing. People without authentic report made that claim. And from where we sit at, in the presentation that has been taking place to the department by Basic Education, we don't have that. But what we have is that there was an alarm which was raised on one particular question, that there's a seemingly a methodology of answering, which then must be further investigated. And I can tell, if there was that, we would have been the first one to know it, and would have been the first one to go out about it in the public so that the parents can understand. But I can tell you, if there's that, it's always the case that there will be an investigation. As the investigation takes place, results are withheld, and as of now, we don't have an indication that there will be results that are withheld in the Alfred Nzo region.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for clarifying that contentious issue. Thank you very much, Vuyiseka Mboxela, the spokesperson of the Education Department in the Eastern Cape.